Good morning, guys. Welcome back to a slightly different and perhaps impromptu version of Inside the Coverage. And in this case, myself and EA Edgar Allen, we're going to focus on the Brian Flores defense because he's one of the guys that Steve Bisciotti and the Ravens front office have chosen to interview. The main point that I think I enjoy when I watch his defense is that he's got a plan. It's seemingly for everything. And so what we would like to do is show you guys some of the ways that he maybe attacks pass pro, creates organized chaos. And up front, I do have to say that I didn't give EA much time here at all to look at this defense, one that I know a little bit better than he does. So first of all, I apologize for that, but
good, don't worry.
Things are happening fast here.
Yeah.
I know you are. I know the answer to this question. Can you give us some of your initial impressions as someone who, and I'm interested, because I've seen his defense for 2 years, and I know that you haven't focused on it the way I have. So what are some of the things you think you noticed in this initial or cursory glance that we're trying to provide here?
Yeah, I think you took the words right out of my mouth, just drawn on that old Ravens maxim of organized chaos. This is, I think, perhaps even more in keeping with that descriptive, at least the way I've sort of dipped my toe into it and watched some of the plays you provided for me and some of the cut-ups you gave. Yeah, there's a real organization, a real system in play as you watch their defense. It's just night and day compared to what we saw from Baltimore this year. There's physicality. You mentioned the idea of how skilled he is coaching. He's a coach, right? He's really got these guys coached up, and he allows them to take chances. He lets them read. There's a fair amount of if this, then that, I think,
Absolutely.
going on the field. If this happens, I'm going to play this receiver or this back, or I'm going to drop into this spot. That applies to the rush as well. Those guys reading the offensive line or the protection in general. So I think fairly innovative stuff. I would be very, very surprised if the defense doesn't completely turn around. If he were to become the coordinator in Baltimore, that would surprise me a great deal if they don't turn around completely and return to top 5, 6, 7, maybe higher defense. They're going to come prepared. It'd be curious to see who he brings in. I'm seeing little things in their defense as well. The ability or the desire to bracket or switch coverage on number 2 in particular. So a very varied defense, probably down and distance dependent as much more than what we're doing here in Baltimore. Yeah, I'm really enjoying kind of watching him. There's, I don't know so far as I would call it chaos. It's chaos in the mind of the quarterback. I think there's a lot of mind games that happen to a quarterback and into protection in general that he's very conscious of. I think
order disguised as chaos is the way that I've heard some people describe it. But you said chaos in the mind of the quarterback, chaos in our minds as observers, but to them, those guys on defense, they're just doing what they do every day.
That's right.
One thing to point out for me, and I didn't know this. First of all, I didn't know necessarily what you were going to say. We had communicated some prior to this, but I think pretty much just like you claim I took the words right out of your mouth, you just did the same. From a statistical standpoint, some of these things I was not aware of, I am now, and that's why we'll read some of it out. So I have significant notes here before we get to some of the plays, which hopefully we can do in the next 5 minutes. But Flores has been referred to as a dictator, and I would agree, but I'm not going to use it in the sense that most people do. I think his defense, the plan, and the way the guys go out and execute is meant to dictate to you as the offense what you're going to be able to do. And like you said, on a down and distance situational, it changes every play. Is that kind of what you think you see? I think that's what you said, basically.
Mm-hmm.
I was fortunate this year to be able to see the Vikings defense, twice against the Lions, and they tore them up. Of course, they forced 6 turnovers the second matchup, and then against the Ravens and then the Seahawks. So just some data before we begin. 2025, the Vikings gave up 19.6 points per game. I think that's 7th in the league. We're at like 23.5 or something like that. They also generated 49 sacks. Now, what makes that interesting to me is Jonathan Grenard, who had 12 sacks in 2024, he only played 12 games this year in 2025. He only contributed 3 of those 49 sacks.
Wow.
And Grenard is like a 10 sack a year guy from a talent standpoint. So that's interesting. You're talking about 2 seasons in Minnesota as the defensive coordinator, Brian Flores, and they had 48 and 49 sacks in those two years. Of course, that's appealing to us as Ravens fans because of our inability, right, to get pressure on the quarterback this year. I will say this: there's a player who I'd like to see if he was to come here and be the head coach / defensive play caller. There's a guy I think is a perfect segue to bring in and help us because it fits from a positional standpoint, it fits from a contract standpoint, and it fits because he knows Flores defense. And that guy's name is Eric Wilson. He's a 31-year-old inside linebacker who they signed in Minnesota for 1 year, $2.6 million. Now, the price tag might be different after what he did in 2025. 6.5 sacks, 115 tackles, 4 forced fumbles, and you're going to see him all over this film that EA and I are going to show. Of course, they had the longtime safety, I think he's like 34 or 35 years old, Harrison Smith. He's retiring.
Is he? Okay.
Yeah, but in this structure, when you watch some of this film, guys, as Ravens fans, it's quite easy to see Harrison Smith could be replaced by Kyle Hamilton. But we can put Kyle Hamilton anywhere, right? He can be successful. Anything I left out before we start with the film?
I think we're good.
I do think it's interesting to note, if anyone wants to go look at the stats, not necessarily right now, but when you're done, this past season, Minnesota had tremendous struggles on offense, right? With J.J. McCarthy and all Carson Wentz and all the guys who played quarterback for them. And at the same time, they only gave up defensively 158 passing yards per game.
Wow.
Second in the league. Whereas in 2024, look, the initial integration of the Flores defense in 2024, his first year in Minnesota, the first 4 or 5 weeks, feel free to go look this up yourself, they gave up a lot of passing yards, 379 one game, I think 329 another game. So they finished the year in 2024 giving up like 239 a game. They were pretty far down, 27, 28, 29 in the league. But the important thing is for me, they only gave up 19.5 points per game in 2024, and they gave up 19.6 points per game this year in 2025. Pretty consistent. Whereas the Ravens' defense from 24 to 25 got worse.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Do have some film here to show you guys. I think we've got 7 plays, so we're going to do the same thing we normally do, kind of hand it off to each other. I think this one's a fun one to talk about. It's the first play of the game, week 4 against the Steelers. It's fun to talk about because how crazy it is, but it's also the first play of the game. So the 2 safeties here. I think it's Metellus, 44, who's like a hybrid safety, linebacker, nickel. He does a little bit of everything. I can't remember this other safety's name. I don't think Harrison Smith played this week, but I could be wrong. So I call this cloud 3 pre-snap. So the corner is in the flats, sitting down. The 2 high safety is kind of moved over a little bit, but I guess he's in a normal alignment. The other guy is certainly in the middle of the field, and the boundary side corner is walked off. And so they have this dynamic they do a lot, that Flores does a lot, where the outside linebackers drop and the inside linebackers rush. Sounds simple. I know. It confuses – I don't know if it confuses quarterbacks, but it definitely confuses offensive linemen, and this is one of them. Look, this turns out basically being a 2-man rush. You got 2 defensive linemen dropping out. These 2 guys rushing. One of them's an inside linebacker, Ivan Pace. He certainly had a blitzing inside linebacker That's Pace, number 0. I think he played at Cincinnati. I think Flores really, really trusts his players to read things. Are you getting the same sense when you watch some of the film, or are you not able to say yet?
Yeah, I'm sure he does, but I'm sure he's got them the right players in his system too. I think that's something that would be interesting if he is hired. Who he brings in. I'm real interested in the linebacker you mentioned. But the players get some of the credit. I think you're on point when you say what a great coach, teacher. I think that's the word you use. Teacher he is. But it's brazen right here, as you said. First down, first play of the game.
It's Aaron Rodgers.
Mm-hmm.
It's 12 personnel.
Let's see what you can do with this. Is what he's doing here on first. You know what I mean? First play of the game. Let's see. Let's get in your head. You think you're ready to play. Let's see.
I think a lot of it flows from personnel and then the formation that's presented. So this is from NFL Pro. So you only get, this is the start of the play. It's not the full length where you can, see maybe 2 seconds prior to right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm big on formations. I was trained by some super smart guys, way better than I was or ever would be, on identifying formations and letting your calls flow from that. And when I say he trusts his players, that's what I mean. He trusts them both post-snap with the read and pre-snap with identifying what they should be in based upon this look. It's 12 personnel trips. So, this is Hayward's younger brother, I think. And then this is Darnell Washington. Neither of those guys a big pass threat, in my opinion, at all, consistently. And, maybe the play call here, the blitz structure, is what flows from that,
Yeah, it's real interesting in what they come out in. It seems you can tell that the defense is on the same page with how they're going to react. I didn't see if there's any kind of motion or anything like that, but you can see the brain, the collective brain working before this ball is snapped in terms of that, the personnel, but also the 3-by-1 look that they're getting.
I picked this one because Rodgers is looking to the boundary immediately. The boundary with I know you don't need this explanation, but listeners or watchers might. Ball's on the left hash, so the boundary's up here, the short side of the field. Man, in our loss to the Steelers in Week 18, 8 out of every 10 pass plays was to the boundary. Mm-hmm. And these are easy access throws that Flores is going to take away. And in this case, it's Eric Wilson, the inside linebacker, dropping to the flats. The OLB, I think that's Grenard, but I could be wrong, dropping to the, essentially hook. And DK's a little snag route. Absolutely nothing there for Aaron Rodgers at all. Tim, I think that this is a team that has multiple coverages, but this one, I think in particular, this team relies on. I think it's an irregular Tampa 2. Where this is the flat player. Mm-hmm. What's that?
With 97?
Yeah. Well, with the D tackles dropping out, that's a whole separate thing. But with this guy being the flat player to the field, mm-hmm. and then Wilson being the flat player to the boundary, and these being our half field guys, although it certainly doesn't look like a half field structure up there, that corner. I recognize that. Let me do the end zone angle and just talk about the reads, and then I know you have at least 2 or 3 plays queued up as well. This is again, first play of the game. Off screen to our left, we've got a corner sitting in the flats. To our right, the right-hand side of our screen, we've got 4. So there's an inside linebacker, that's 55, Wilson, an OLB, Grenard, that's 58. And you see this dynamic a lot. Both D tackles on the same side, or 2 of them.
Mm-hmm. I noticed that.
And I think they're just trying to force the center to step that way. But I think Flores, some people try to attack away from the running back. I think Flores' defensive structure is to attack to the back, and all of his best pass attack stuff is to the side of the running back. Okay, I know he's going to be there. Let's go ahead and start our count there and add 1. So it's a little bit of a pick play by Redmond, who will get the sack. So he's trying to pick the center. And then from that, Pace is going to loop around. watch these 2D tackles. Sometimes it's predetermined, all right? I recognize that. But sometimes I think these D tackles are just reading it. I think it's different players on every play. In my opinion here, the OLBs are not reading this. So this guy, Dallas Turner, and that guy, I'm calling Eric Wilson the OLB because he's the widest guy. Technically, he's an inside linebacker, but he plays a little bit of both. I think that's predetermined here on this play. I think it's possible that this guy and this guy on a 1st and 10, first play of the game, might be reading it. If you step to me, I'm going to drop out. I don't know. It certainly happens fast, and 97 is in no kind of stance at all. 97 is in no kind of attacking stance. So it's entirely possible this is predetermined, right?
Well, 93 falling off like that, I think is kind of unusual. To almost to the back right there.
Yeah.
Just trying to read that quick hit.
Who rushes 2 on the first play of the game?
Right. But to your point, I do see a lot of kind of blitzing right. Sometimes it's with an outside linebacker, sometimes an inside backer that's mugged up. They'll come right at the running back and kind of force him to make a decision. There's one play where they blitz toward the running back in that gap, then drop the blitzer out. He kind of comes at the running back, loops around, and ends up getting a deflection, and the safety to that side comes all the way down at that point once he loops and plays the running back.
Probably Harrison Smith is the safety.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just look at multiple teams do this stuff, right? This ain't the only guy, but through watching them in 24 and 25 myself personally, I was not a guy who was a huge fan of Flores a year ago plus 2 or 3 months. Got exposed to his structure in the NFC North against the Lions, and Goff did well against him in 2024. Goff shredded them. Not this year. It's a totally different animal. And so I think probably by the end of the 2024 regular season, I was starting to have a begrudging level of respect, and then studied the defense in the offseason and came into 2025 with a newfound level of, well, I don't even want to say understanding, because I think there's some things he does that I don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
Which one do you got here? This is not the 3rd down, is it?
No, this is, gosh, I'm not even sure which the down and distance on this one. I think this may be 1st and 10. We'll see when this sticks. One of the things that you see all the time is the boundary safety coming down here at the line of scrimmage. I think, to your point, the idea of him trusting his players, Smith, he certainly trusts 22 here. I really like the way he plays this. They end up playing what I would call a 3 sky, where this safety is going to come down and play the flat. Smith rotates over. You can see that right as the ball is being snapped, we get a too high look. But if we back it up a little bit further, even further than this, let me see if I can go back just a little bit. Let's see, with Smith. Okay, so Smith's kind of lined up as if he's in coverage here. He's pretty square. Or I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong player. Now he's at the line of scrimmage.
Right.
Now he's kind of squared up as if he's in coverage.
So they've rolled the boundary side safety up, and Van Ginkel is actually an OLB 43, who's right next to him.
Right here.
Yeah.
Yep, that's a good look.
Right next to each other.
Yep. So you get Smith kind of like almost in coverage, and I love this kind of backpedal weave that he does here, because
smart.
You can see him kind of dropping into what looks like 2. Even this safety, you do see him take that forward step. Let me back it up just a little bit more.
Sky, right? You called it sky.
Yep, right here. Okay, so you see this first step forward, but then he kind of freezes. I didn't do a good job of illustrating that. But watch the weave of Smith here, kind of falling back into like this 3 look right here. And then we get the tight end releasing, and then that safety coming downhill here is going to pull him off for just a yard or two gain. Just a nice disguise, because you can see the quarterback turn his head here on the play fake, and he's got a too high look, comes back around, and the middle of the field's closed.
So you've got Harrison Smith up near the line,
Yeah.
as the quarterback is engaging, and then he's at linebacker level at some point, and then
Right
finally he's back as a midfield free safety in cover 3.
Yeah, and then that weave back pedal is so intentional and so cool, right? So he's not over to the middle of the field until after the quarterback's eyes are around. Let's see.
I think there's a real game within a game with how he calls the defense and what they do every week.
Yeah, even series to series, play to play, for sure. And here's 44, that the hybrid kind of guy. He brings pressure off the edge.
Yeah, Metellus, I think, is his name.
Yeah, just a really nice disguise there. That's a smart player. Certainly, that's coaching. I wish I could do a better job of showing this safety, because he pulls it off too. Right, he's not giving up this disguise. Let me see if I can freeze it. There's a little step forward right there. But watch, once we get to the blue line, he's square. So he's kind of hiding that he's coming down to the flat as well. Gets under this receiver in the process.
Under it.
Yep.
Yeah. I feel like they, I will say their zone defensive structure, this is a little bit of a generalization. I feel like it's a little bit more aggressive zone defensive structure against underneath stuff. I don't mean like they're jumping everything underneath and getting beat over the top, but I feel like there's less space when balls are completed underneath against their zone structure. They seem to be reacting quicker, almost as if they know, okay, the ball's going to be out here at a certain time, and I'm going to come downhill and make this tackle.
I saw that as well. You would see a defender in zone coverage leave his responsibility in a way that seemed a little bit early, because it was almost as if he knew where the football was going. He would come over and make the tackle midfield, away from his responsibility.
Right. They definitely seem to have guys at the second and third level who will, like you said, kind of leave early.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that, I'm sorry, I removed you. Were you done there?
Yeah, I'm done.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
I was trying to upload another play for a moment, and it goes to a point you were making, and I wasn't able to find the play. It's a play from 24 against the Lions where Goff is – this is not this play here. Goff is showing this look to the defense, and Harrison Smith and Van Ginkel are showing a particular blitz. And then Goff very calmly motions a guy across. The Vikings switch to something else, a too high structure. Goff gives the reload signal. The Vikings switch to a third different look. And maybe we'll do this again next week, and I'll find the play. And then Goff brings the offense back to the exact look they had in the beginning of the play when they first lined up, and the Vikings switch to a fourth different look. Now, how many of those looks by the Vikings or the Lions were, dummy looks? It's entirely possible, right? That some of them were. Goff actually ends up throwing a completion on a 3rd and 8 that makes them short. So he did all this work. And on a 3rd and 8, he got 7 yards. They end up converting the next down, a 4th and 1. And, it was 2024 when they beat up Minnesota's defense. But my point is, I feel like, how, what was it, Lamar against NFC teams for the first time?
Yeah.
It's very difficult for them. I feel like Flores' defense against your quarterback for the first time causes a lot of problems.
Well, even so, to your point, they really, really played well defensively versus Detroit this year, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And Detroit's seen them plenty,
Mm-hmm.
So you get a defense that's unpredictable. It's the way it comes off. if you're an offensive team or coordinator, yeah, you got to be smart. You have to be as smart as he is to beat him. That's one of the things I like about Flores is that he's really a smart football coach in game.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think there's this level of sometimes it seems like he's willing to give up certain things in a given week in order to take away something else.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a dynamic that I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on. So he does this a lot in 25. I don't know if you've seen this. The inside linebacker to the boundary kind of widens up. And I don't mean, like an edge defender alignment. I mean, like he lines up wider than he, quote, should be, and then kicks back in the box at a certain point. When I say game within a game, what I suspect is happening here is that he's getting Goff and the offensive line to utilize a certain pass protection, and then they're going to run the stunt that they want, which is, these two inside linebackers crossing. And again, you've got an outside line, two inside linebackers blitzing, two outside linebackers dropping, which is quite simple. But what they've done, and I think I've got the end zone angle here, is they've created a 3-on-2 on the inside. So the 3-on-2 they've created is the two inside linebackers and the nose tackle against the center and the running back, because the left guard here has worked to the outside. Presumably for me, the inside linebacker being here, early, has, they think, the Vikings elicited a certain pass pro call, which means that the left guard and left tackle are going to have to work to those two guys, one of which, 55, Eric Wilson, does not blitz. So very simple. The Lions didn't handle it well. Don't get me wrong. I don't think the Lions handled it well over the course of the game. It was very well publicized by Detroit media and football analysts how much trouble Jahmyr Gibbs had in pass pro, but it doesn't matter what he does here. This is a 3-on-2. I've never really seen a ton of this, to be honest with you. This inside linebacker, lining up here. I mean, how consistently they did it in that game. It seems middle second quarter, it seemed pretty obvious. Okay, there's a reason for them doing this. And when you combine that with the knowledge of the blitz structure, what they did post-snap, crossing the inside linebackers, then it, kind of reveals itself to you. I felt like Detroit could have adjusted better.
Did you notice this in other games, the linebacker placement drop?
Well, they definitely, two parts to that answer. They definitely did bring both inside linebackers often and drop both OLBs. We saw that structure a lot in our game against them. I feel like, the NFL is a copycat league. I feel like the Steelers used some of this against us in Week 18, dropping both OLBs. But no, not to this extent. I felt like this was something specific to the Lions, in my opinion. And that's, just based on my observation. It worked out. I think that, they're getting a certain call by having him here, and it has a trickle-down effect on, that there. And since one of those guys drops out, Brian Flores is, quote, gotcha.
Yeah. You and I were mentioning how intentional the pass rush is, how linked up the defenders are together in the assignment. If we watch the nose there, he's going to collapse the center, but watch how he brings him over to the back.
Mm-hmm. Smart.
Yep.
There seems, as you said it earlier, or maybe I said it originally, I don't remember at this point, but there seems to be another layer or level of teaching with attacking the pass pro. And, as a Ravens fan, both of us, guys who liken ourselves to understand some of what's happening on the field, that's appealing. A guy who can recognize your pass pro deficiencies, whether it's a player, whether it's a scheme, and then attack them accordingly. Look, Hank Fraley is the O-line coach for the Lions, universally recognized as a high-level guy. And they were able to get after, Goff. And it's not like that was week 1 or week 2 or anything like that. I do want to point out something I talked about earlier. If you want to load your next play up, it's the 3rd and 3 that you're going to talk about next, right?
Yes.
They gave up 2,700 passing yards this year, while they had 49 sacks. I don't know that they have superior defensive talent to us. I mean, Eric Wilson was a guy they had brought back. He had been in Minnesota before, went to Green Bay, been injured for 2 or 3 years. They brought him back on $2.6 million, 1-year contract, right? Grenard, Van Ginkel, Dallas Turner, obviously, really good, talented OLBs/pass rushers. I don't know that the coverage element for them is as individually talented as ours. I think you got a cohesive group on their defense, and I think that's why some of us, myself included, would be excited if he was the guy.
I think Starks plays well in this defense too, Coach. I think Starks looks good here.
Yep.
With Flores.
Hamilton, absolutely.
Hamilton. Yeah, Hamilton.
Absolutely.
He's going to have a field day with him for sure.
All right, let me load up it's a 3rd and 3, right?
3rd down 3. I pulled this one just because this is what, the first everybody thinks of first is these zero looks. When they think of Flores. Let's see. So you get, and I also think it's worth pointing out that I think he's playing with the mind of the protection and of the quarterback in particular. 3rd down and 3, you just need 3 yards here. There's a lot to the top side of the screen pre-snap to be excited about, and I'm just speculating here. But this is a quarterback who knows he needs 3 yards. He knows there's a good possibility he's got to get this football out quickly, and he's in a pre-snap pick a side mentality as a result. And I believe he believes we're going to get some kind of drop here. I don't think he thinks they're going to leave this part of the field uncovered once the ball's snapped.
Right.
And so as a consequence, he likes what he sees here to the boundary with 11.
JSN.
Right? Yep. And there's
JSN.
space here, and you think, well, I'm going to get a quick hit to this side. You do get 3 over 2 to this side is what ends up happening. But I think what makes this play is that mind game that he's willing to play, because he's putting the defense is at risk here. There's no question as the ball snapped. You see guys, let's see, pull it up just a little bit. Yeah, you see guys at the sticks wide open
Uncovered.
If his eyes go there. But pre-snap, he doesn't – I think he's got a pretty good inkling that he's going to get somebody underneath that. He likes this better. He knows he doesn't have time. So while Flores and the defense are rolling the dice a bit here or putting themselves at risk,
100%.
I don't think they care. I think there's so much intellect behind what he's asking them to do. They'll live with it. And this is something you brought out earlier, Coach. This is that if this, then that at play here. Take this, Coach, with this if you will.
I mean, it's let it run a little bit to the point where the safety knocks. This is Harrison Smith, the boundary side safety, walked up again, like you pointed out.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to be free, right, off the
he's
off
clean.
the rush.
Yep.
And it's JSN out there. I mean, JSN's had an unbelievable season, right? Can you pull it back to like right as Darnold is getting ready to throw the ball before it's knocked down? Yeah, right, a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, so look at the safety, guys. The safety's in the middle of the field, and certainly to the top, you've got 3 eligible receivers for Seattle, 3 stand-ups,
Mm-hmm.
and you only got 2 guys to cover them. Why is that? Man, the safety is just reading Darnold's eyes. And so if Darnold had looked, to the top side of our screen, his left, I think the safety's path would have been where you have that arrow drawn. He would have gone to the trip side. And so, it's not every snap. I think the adaptability and the level of trust that Flores has to call this on a 3rd and 3 against JSN, who, I don't know who had a better year than him as a wide receiver in the NFL in 2025. I mean, Jamar Chase had a great year. Obviously, Justin Jefferson's super talented. For my money, the guys I saw on film, JSN is the best dude this year from a performance and efficiency standpoint. And here on a 3rd and 3, Flores trusts his safety to just, hey, read the quarterback's eyes, go where he looks. Very similar to what they did to Lamar in 2021 on that Thursday night football game down in Miami, where those guys are just reading Lamar's eyes.
Mm-hmm. That's a great point, right? He knows this. He's dependent on this guy to get there. You know,
be a plus one basically.
Yeah, if you give up the first down, that's, you know, we're willing to take that risk. That's why we're bringing 7. We're getting in the quarterback's head, and they get pressure.
You got the end zone?
Yeah, let's see.
So we can see when that guy goes. Is it Byron Murphy? Also, it's not actually a safety. It's that's a corner. 7 is a corner.
Huh.
Yeah, he's an outside corner. Yeah, he's just looking at
immediately. Yeah, that's a good. We get a good look at it there. Yeah, quarterback's helmet is just to that side, and then you can see him planting to that side. Yeah,
and these guys aren't reading it here. These guys up front, these rushers, they're not reading anything, because if they were reading, you know, if they were trying to create that that free rusher and an offensive lineman step to them, then they would peel out.
Right.
You know, they would peel out because it's mission accomplished for them.
Yeah, they're just coming.
They're just all gone.
Yep.
This is what we see against Lamar is we see, you know, bring 6 or 7 so that he's got to get rid of the ball and somebody else has got to make a play. Look at 7. He's gone.
Yep. And this is just wild here, right? Just how wide open he ends up being, and the quarterback, again, he's picked a side pre-snap.
It was a game within a game, not just throughout 60 minutes, but on every snap and every possession. And I feel like, and I'm sensing that you do too, that Flores is a guy who is in tune with that game, and he's also oftentimes a master at it. You know, certainly for the regular football population. You know, at this level, is he one of the top 5 in the game? I don't know. I mean, if the Ravens were to hire him, we think we're seeing stuff that we like. It's easy to do that, though, you know, when there's no regular season. It could be Kubiak. We'll do one on Kubiak, too, man, if I can convince EA to take time and watch the Seahawks offense in the next 72 hours. We'll do one on Kubiak because, you know, he's not going to go anywhere. Kubiak's not going to – he's got a game in the divisional round, obviously, you know.
I did do some reading, I think it was last night, this morning, I don't know, last night. To try to find out some information on Flores in terms of Minnesota. They really, at least according to what I read, they're not anxious for him to leave at all in Minnesota. They want to retain him. They're nervous about Baltimore. Yeah, they're nervous about Baltimore just the fact that they're interviewing him. They're nervous about it, based on what I read.
Agreed. No, that's what I've seen, and I know, you know, I keep in mind for those of you watching or listening that, you know, I've got a Ravens Discord that has grown to be something I never anticipated at all as part of my Patreon. I mean, I never would have guessed that 120 plus people would interact on a daily basis about the Ravens in a mostly secure environment. I'm sure there's, you know, people that screenshot stuff. Hey, can you believe such and such said this, whatever. But the Lions Discord, which is about a 1.5 year lag as far as its creation, is also now up to 65 people, and unanimously in there, when it was announced that Flores was going to interview in Baltimore, Lions fans were like, please take him. Please get rid of this guy. You know, they went 14-3 in 2024, gave up 19.5 points per game, forced 32 or maybe 33 turnovers. I think it's 33 in Minnesota. This past year, they only forced 21 turnovers, and they went 9-8, but his defense still only gave up 19.6. You see some consistency there, if you ask me, as far as production, that I would say is, you know, pretty reliable.
Mm-hmm.
We got all Seahawks stuff here to end. You've got one more, right?
Yes.
And I think the one that you've got is going to line up. I do have actually 2 more plays, but we'll just have to table this and do it again. Maybe we'll do it again next week sometime, or if he gets hired.
Yeah.
So the coverage, you know, talked a lot about blitz structure and the coverage when you're not bringing heat, when you're not forcing the offensive line to check into a particular pass pro. We got a 2nd and 1 late second quarter. Look, the Vikings played this game with a third or fourth string quarterback, Max. I think it's Brosmer. So they were really fighting uphill offensively. Watch how they play JSN. Number one, and number two, watch the timing with which Harrison Smith reacts to Sam Darnold's throw and Sam Darnold's eyes. I think you called it daring or something along those lines. I think it's interesting. Teams have started to really try to focus on JSN. Here you've got the safety over the top, what looks like kind of two, there with that corner. But this guy's leverage underneath, inside, not letting any in cut beat him, and he knows he's got help over here. It just, to me, is awareness that is, well, it should be expected at the NFL level, don't get me wrong. But they demonstrate this on a day when they're operating with their third or fourth string quarterback, and, they're trying to keep themselves in the football game.
It's interesting. I'm smiling, Coach, because this is one of the exact same plays I pulled.
I'm sorry.
No, same reason. Yep.
Were you going to talk about Harrison Smith? Because, he's super experienced, and a lot of people think he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. I have no idea about all of that, but I know that he's very intelligent, plays generally to the boundary, but here we've got him set to the field. And look at when he's gone. It's similar to what you talked about with the safety on the previous play, right?
Yeah. Right. And exactly. Just the smarts and what he's reading there, because 22 is his responsibility.
He's already gone. He didn't even look at 22.
Yeah.
I remember talking about this from a Seahawks standpoint and saying, this is Rashid Shaheed. He's a game breaker. I'm looking at some point like, can we run one of these, at Harrison Smith and make him defend, Shaheed on a deep concept? Because Shaheed's, he's brilliant, man. He's been a great acquisition for them. This is what the Vikings kind of got away with. Maybe that's the wrong phrase.
Mm-hmm.
It's what they've done under Flores is teach specific reads that I think have helped their players get to the ball, sooner than they, quote, should be. They did this to Lamar, in 2021. Well, is that the same one you had picked?
No, I got a different one too. Yeah, 7's going to come off. It's interesting in that coverage too. 7, he's playing inside that. Who are they over here? Is that 11? Yeah.
So this is JSN, and that's Cooper Kupp.
So he's with his eyes to the sideline there. His job would be to fall off of JSN if Kupp runs that like inside route,
right?
Because you can see him. And then the safety's going to come on top of it, and he's got him in man. But that's just a side note. If Cooper
so you're talking about something like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then the corner may fall off and double JSN.
Right. Yeah. I think that you've got, coverage stuff happening that, happens on every NFL team. Don't get me wrong, but they seem to be able to, well, this year against the pass, 158 yards allowed in his second year per game in the air. Well, what was ours? I mean, we had to be really far down there, right? As far as pass yards per game allowed.
Yeah.
Now, they were in 2024 under Flores, his first year, but that's my point is, they got better with some of those things his second year. We did not. We gave up 21 points per game in 2024, Zach Orr's first year. We gave up 23.6 or 23.5 in year 2. We got worse. All right, so you have a similar one, you think, that's bracket?
No, that was the one. That was the one I was thinking about. That where they just. I think that's just cool to see because I don't remember seeing the Ravens do that a ton this year. Just a little indicator as to how varied, team scheme dependent, however you want to put it, team dependent. This defense, as Flores is, nothing's off the table, right? Just there's a lot going on.
Well said.
This is Smith. Again, kind of doing his thing. I think it's And there's an interesting kind of play on the trips coverage here once we get this motion across. So Smith comes downhill, and then he's going to bail.
He's gone.
I think we're going to play two-man on this one.
Mm-hmm.
Two-man coverage, which is, to me, I love that coverage. You see him kind of reading the quarterback, too. There's not so much in the way of kind of poaching to this side, at least that you can tell, the three receiver side. But if you want to take that, Coach, what you said about the 7 here in particular.
You got Bunch.
Yep.
Yeah, 7's an exceptional football player, Byron Murphy. I think it might be Byron Murphy the second or Byron Murphy the third. I can't remember. But
he was UConn. Is that where he came?
I believe so.
Out of school. Okay.
And it's Bunch, so you're going to get offenses, receivers attempting to, layer their routes or time up their routes, such that, they might pick someone, right? Especially against man. But I like that Murphy is kind of jumping this a little bit, to use an offensive line terminology. He's kind of jumping it a little bit. And then the other guy, the inside, is layered over the top. Seems simple, obviously. And we've talked about it before with our coverages for the Ravens. But this happens often, and this happens automatically and quick. It's smooth.
Yeah.
Locked up on them.
Yep. I think Murphy was in New England too, right? Probably at the same time. I think that New England drafted him.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
There's
so many Murphys. There's a Byron Murphy that plays for the Seahawks too. So.
Oh, okay, maybe.
D-tackle.
So yeah, this is just again, a lot of teams do this kind of stuff, but just there's discipline here and there's orchestration in terms of this pass rush. You don't just have a random inside spin with the outside contain.
Wide open. Right?
Yeah. You're going to see this freeze and then the nose play the outside contain, and that's intentional.
Yeah, like a pick almost with 58.
Uh-huh.
I'd like to do maybe a focus on the pass rush stuff if we could, at some point, but
yeah, that's a deep dive. That is with him.
Exactly. I feel like, you can probably take this baton and run with it if you want. I feel like from a music standpoint, you're trying to understand what a master is up there doing. And the reality is, for me at least, I have to accept I can only get to, 30%, maybe 40% understanding of what he's actually doing, with some of this, why they're making these calls in a particular week versus not the week before.
This is a stretch because I wouldn't call what he does improvising at all, but I think a really great improviser, if we can take the music analogy, is someone who is not afraid to sound bad. You're not truly doing that, making great music in an improvisational sense, unless you're not afraid to sound bad, which means sometimes you're going to sound bad. Now, he's not improvising here. There's orchestration at work, but he is, I feel, willing to be in the moment. Let's put it like that, and run certain risks that might not turn out, if that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. And the only part of it that I reject is that none of it's improvisation. So I'll try to link improvisation to a suspicion that I have, and I actually do have a play queued up that kind of follows along with what you just showed a little bit.
Okay.
And it involves what I continue to refer to as a read. The players reading it as a blitz structure, I think we can kind of substitute for the musician improvising.
Mm-hmm.
So, I actually had this conversation the night before Harbaugh was fired with a friend of mine. Actually, not a friend of mine, a family member who retired as a high school coach. And he's the best coach that I've ever been able to be around. And I just, for him to retire after winning 2 state titles and doing so fantastic and uplifting a community and getting, a dozen kids Division I scholarships was, a lot. So we had like a 2-hour conversation, just, talking about his career as a coach. And one of the things he said was reference to Flores, but also some other guys, was he believes that sometimes it's not, hey, we're bringing 4. Hey, we're bringing 5. Sometimes it could be 4 and it could be 5 or it could be 6, depending on how the offensive line handles it. And that is a very, that is what I'm calling improvisation. It might be 4, it might be 5, might be 6. I don't know anything about music, so I don't know anything about, I don't even know what chords are. So, but I know 3 chords is the basic, right?
Yeah, it's the blues.
So, for me, that's where I'll say your analogy does not break down by using the word improvisation. I think it actually fits perfectly. A little bit of an maybe illustration here, and this will be the last one that we do for a lot of reasons. It's Saturday morning. We both got up early to record this, so if you guys enjoyed it, please let us know. I would love to do something like this every day, but I don't know if EA could handle that. So it's a 3rd and 11 against Seattle. Look, they gave Seattle a ton of trouble. Gave them a ton of trouble. And you got this dynamic of this, this overload, both D tackles to the same side. And once again, there is Harrison Smith walked up to the boundary. It's something they do a lot. I don't know if it's 60% of the time, 70, but he threatens it a lot. I believe these 2 inside linebackers are just reading 75 and the center. So if 75 steps to me, then I'll peel out. If 75 steps here and no one steps to me, then I'm gone. And then, whatever 55s read is, is probably the interior guy, the center. So both of those guys are probably reading the center, or the interior lineman. That's my guess. But at the same time that you've got that happening, off screen to our left is JSN and Cooper Kupp to the field, and you've got these 2 guys dropping out. So yeah, we do the Ravens do stuff like this under Zach Orr? Sure we do. Line up in our mug look. And then, do different things off of it. We don't do a ton of this, tie guys up. I don't think, number 1. Number 2, I don't think we get to this level of coordination here. And I could be wrong. It's probably in our system. I mean, Eric Wilson's totally unblocked. Jonathan Grenard wins off the edge. So the explanation for this from some people is going to be, hey, they just got better players and the Seahawks left Eric Wilson unblocked. Well, Eric Wilson, Ivan Pace, Blake Cashman did this type stuff to the Lions, and people made excuses for it. Oh, Jahmyr Gibbs had a poor day blocking. Yeah, there's some things they need to do better. They did the same thing to the Seahawks, and guess what? They gave us trouble with the same stuff as well. There's a pattern there. It's credit them for what they do. I think Cashman and Wilson are reading this, and if Wilson was to drop out, he would end up looking outside here off screen to our right, his left, in the same manner that Cashman does here. And that's that, you called it improvisation. I think Flores builds a system where he knows what his players can do. I think he trusts them to go out and do it. And so far in 2 years as a defensive coordinator in Minnesota, 19.5 points per game, which I think was 5th, and 19.6 points per game, which I think was 7th. It looks like something that he could bring to Baltimore and immediately, be an upgrade to me.
Yeah, I think it's going to come down. They're not going to not turn over every stone, college, pro, what have you, to find the right guy. In a lot of ways, he feels like the right guy. I think without knowing anything about him as a person, and you hear certain things, but who knows? Who cares? That's going to be up to Bisciotti. But he's a definite football mind, in the same way that McDonald is. Defensively.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Kind of plug and play, if you will, with certain guys. And again, I reference Eric Wilson, a guy that they brought in from Green Bay for $2.6 million, maybe it's $2.4 million, and gave him 6.5 sacks, 4 forced fumbles, and over 100 tackles. And, would fit right in here in our defensive structure if he was to be the guy in Baltimore as someone who A, knows the system, B, is a veteran. I think he'll be 32 years old next year. Probably, what would the salary structure have to be? I have no idea, but we're not sold on this. Is not us. I am definitely a guy who would be excited if Flores was hired. EA is just the guy who I said, hey, will you look at this defensive structure with me over the next 48 hours and let's try to produce something on Friday night or Saturday morning. So I have to personally thank you for, signing up for that. And then
It's always good. No worries.
also, my own vacillation or stringent, I guess, time frame to get this done.
Yeah. Oh, well, it needed. Yeah. It's time sensitive and we got it done.
I don't think you were, when I told you I was up at 4:30 on Saturday morning, you were like, nah, that ain't happening. But
I wasn't sure whether to believe you. That's crazy talk, man. 4:30. Woo.
Yeah. I mean, when you have other things to do during the course of the day, you just have to subtract from your own, sleep or maybe you add on, later on in the week or earlier on in the week. But this was,
You're amazing, coach. Really.
well, it was exciting to do. And I
Yeah.
was excited, when you're excited to go do something in a given day, I think that, that gets you up. So
That's true. I mean, sometimes I'll wake up early, way ahead of when I need to be up, but there's so many things I want to do or need to do during the day that'll get me up.
would you rather look at Robert Salah's defensive structure next or Clint Kubiak's offensive structure? Put you on the spot here.
Yeah,
I didn't give you a neither option.
Either one. I think offense is where I might lean just to switch it up.
Yeah, I'll put some Kubiak stuff in the Google Drive and then sounds good. It's going to be a fun time for Ravens fans once it is announced. I kind of hope, I have to be directly honest, I kind of hope that they take their time. I don't, Kubiak and the Seahawks could be in this thing till the end. So, so could the 49ers. So could, a couple of other, the Rams obviously are really good as well. So I wonder what Bisciotti's timeline is. I don't think Bisciotti's timeline is mid next week. Do you?
No, I think he's gonna find the right guy. He might bring 20 guys in from all over, and it'll be kind of like his gut businessman gut reaction instinct, the same way it was with Harbaugh. Well, Harbaugh was interesting because they wanted to hire Garrett.
Garrett, right?
Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
I think a Seahawks fan sent me a very interesting email. And that's what's so enjoyable for me about the NFL season, off season too, but is that I'll get, emails or messages from fans of the Ravens, Lions, and Seahawks, and obviously coming from different, angles, different perspectives or wants. And it's made me better. It's actually helped me a lot because it's opened my mind to be not just so Ravens centric, to be directly honest with people. And I know some Ravens fans won't like that. And some of my evaluations that I've given of Ravens players, particularly the offensive line, is based on the fact that I do watch other teams intentionally, the Lions and the Seahawks, and see them execute certain things consistently, that we did not. So it's like, hey, you want me to not point this out to you? Like, you need to just log off at that point. But the Seahawks fan said, I think your Ravens hire is going to be, I think it was, I can't remember the guy's name, Seahawks 71 or something like that is all I saw. It was like, you're going to be hiring the same time we hired McDonald after the championship game weekend. So you have got a unique opportunity as a content creator to put stuff out prior to that. So that's part of the reason why EA and I decided to, try to rush this out on a Saturday morning. This is going to be premiere Saturday morning if it goes through. So again, thank you, man, for participating in this one. We'd love to do another one if you guys in the comment section or whatever would like to something like this on Flores or Salah or whatever. So any final thoughts before we close this out? I know you got some other stuff to do this morning, just like I do.
No, I appreciate you having me as always. It's great. It's real enjoyable. Just say that.
Quick cut makes it really easy to, go through the film and a lot of fun for me. I know you're a Mac guy,
Yeah.
so you got the video player there that works too. But I like the annotations we can put on the screen, preset.
I feel like it orders my thoughts for me a little bit. Right as we get into the video, I kind of have it not only in my head, but written down, so to speak, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, well, thanks again. And if you guys enjoyed this, please let us know in the comment section. We certainly don't think this is comprehensive, right? This was meant to be just a initial look at what we think. I have the benefit of time a little bit more than EA did here. And I certainly put some very narrow parameters, but I tried to provide him as much film as possible, and he just took off and went with it. So thank you again.
Sure. Yeah.
All right. If you guys think that other Ravens fans would enjoy this discussion about the Brian Flores defense, probably, maybe a little too focused or too in depth for some, because we didn't speculate on other candidates at all. Feel free to give us that comment or that feedback in a comment section, I should say, number one. And then number two, if you think other Ravens fans would enjoy this one, please consider grabbing a link to it, sharing it out on social media so other Ravens fans can enjoy it as well. Appreciate you guys' time.